saying that positively. Who knows, maybe season 6 will be the best season ever, I can't know for sure.
Please enjoy it. I'm begging you. Always try to manage your time wisely.
Amethyst, what the heck?
You know the rules, Buster.
A lot of people say you don't really know someone until you've been stranded on an island with them.
The cactus is Earth's most resilient plant.
I'm not pitiful!
Hi, how are you?
I just want to fix it!
Gotta go faster.
It made it in the cruise ship.
Steven.
And I'm so sick of Amethyst acting like she's so mature now.
The power of Steven Tag compels me.
Good God, I was way off! Steven Universe Season 6, also known as Steven Universe Future, also known as Steven Universe Shippuden, is an all-new limited series showcasing the continuing adventures of the Crystal Gems and Steven the Time Bomb, that is set a certain amount of time after Steven Universe the movie. And since you guys loved that video so much, I thought I'd get my thoughts out on it. And since as of writing this video it is on hiatus, and when that happens with Steven Universe it usually means the show's quality dips by about 16%, I thought I'd finally give it a watch after not caring about spoilers for a while. And if I can be perfectly honest, that's just it. I did not care about anything as I watched this. I did not give a sloppy shit about whatever was going on. Remember how I said the movie was decent and that it gave me some hope for the future of the show? I was a fool. A fool? Yes, a fool. Because it turns out the Crewniverse have another batch of fan-made Yu-Gi-Oh cards hidden up their sleeves and also summoned Pot of Greed to add an additional season to their deck. And what we've been given is a complete tismic clusterfuck of the show's worst aspects, and that's just me being generous. Horribly inconsistent tones? Check. Inconsistent animation? Check. Continuing to teabag Pink Diamond's corpse for drama? Check. Steven is an idiot? Check. The plot and characters not making any decisions that seem remotely intelligent? Ka-fucking-ching. Oh god, they even fucked up the emotional moments, arguably one of the show's best aspects. Well before this happened, but how do you somehow manage to cock something up this badly? This will be a different video to the review I did of the movie. My experience with this mountain of bile that claims to be Steven fucking Universe is far different to that of the movie, because my expectations were already below average for this, and then with the slightest bit of hope that it could be better after watching the movie, I was shut down within the first 5 minutes. And this time, I literally could not take it fucking seriously anymore. And hey, Mrs. Sugar seemed to agree, so they made sure that I could not take it seriously even if I fucking tried. Holy hell, I was laughing so hard while watching this. And I'm not saying that to generate a sense of outrage at how bad this was, by the way. I was genuinely cackling like a witch ripped straight out of Macbeth. The writing and delivery was so atrocious that at the many points where something ridiculous happened out of nowhere, it fucking sent me. Episode 3. Oh god, episode 3. What a drunk, bumbling disaster. I couldn't go 30 seconds without screeching in sheer hilarity. Something ridiculous happened every 30 seconds in this episode, from dialogue to the characters to just simply this.
What the fuck was that?
But you know, at the same time, it is fun to yell at gay alien rocks being stupid and getting angry about it, so let's do that instead. I'd also just like to point out that, obviously, yes, you are able to like this, it's fucking, yes, you can like it, it's, shut the fuck up, don't, please. Steven Universe Future isn't really something I can look at closely and analyze why it doesn't work, because it is literally so obvious from watching it that Rebecca just tried to duct tape her show back together, so I won't be going episode to episode like my star video, at least until the last part of the video where I point out a bunch of flaws in the episodes themselves instead of actually like fully going over everything that happens in them, because given the length of the last video I did, just no, I'm not doing that again for a long time, Jesus Christ. But instead, I'm just going to sit back and talk about why so many elements just don't work. So as you are probably aware, on the count that I literally just said it, Steven Universe Alchemist is set a certain amount of time after the events of Steven Universe the movie. So we have a lot of character design changes, references to events in the movie, we have Steven's neck, but to put this on par of the movie would be the overstatement of the year. Let's begin. So as you would expect from post-season 4 Steven Universe, the comedy has the effect of a pillow full of sand. Now I get that comedy as a concept is purely subjective and that there are certain things that makes others laugh and others stare blankly waiting for their day of reckoning to pass. But for humor to be subjective, it first has to be identified as, you know, fucking humor. Not only are the setups for these jokes just not effective, the show has basically gotten so casual of the jokes it has that it will literally rely on an out of place line from a random character in the middle of a monologue to get a laugh out of people. Steven Universe's humor has always been relatively laid back and casual compared to other cartoons, and for a while it really did work. But as we've already gone over, the show as it's gone on has had its best elements age about as well as a sock covered in yogurt. So whenever a joke does happen in Steven Universe Next Generations, it's said so weakly that you don't even recognize it as a joke because it fails to follow the basic setup for one.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Firstly, Steven has absolutely no reason to be monologuing to this random gem that just got uncorrupted about people that he knows. Even if this was the setup, having Steven act like a fucking biscuit salesman just to have one line is not exactly the best look. Oh, and also, Steven can go fuck himself in this season. We'll get onto that in a second, but Steven, please shut the fuck up, you greasy fop doodle. Second of all, I cannot believe that we live in a timeline where this is considered comedy. Not only is the setup here utterly balked, but the punchline isn't even a punchline, it's just sludge. Pure, unfiltered sludge just dripping onto a show that used to be so engaging. This is just how the comedy works in this season. The only jokes that worked were in, oh for god's sake, the worst episode of the season, simply because Estelle can actually deliver deadpan lines really well. But the potency of this show's horrendous script outgrow the terrible jokes and leak its radioactive autism sludge into the show's writing overall. There are so many moments where it feels as if the actors were just given no direction, and we end up getting lines that sound completely out of place simply due to their tone, giving the impression that the actors themselves are bad when that just isn't the case. These people are insanely talented. Maybe they would have done better with a script that didn't have the depth and intelligence of a wet fart, and maybe if you gave them some better direction or just direction in general, then we wouldn't have this clusterfuck of a line.
I'm not pitiful!
And let's get onto the stories for these episodes 1 second so I can actually show you exactly what we're dealing with here. Nazi Germany maintained concentration camps throughout the territories it controlled before and during the Second World War. The first Nazi camps were erected in Germany in March 1933, immediately after Hitler became Chancellor and his Nazi party was given full control of the police by Reich Interior Minister Wilhelm Frick. So basically, the plots for all of the new episodes are utter clusterfucks of puritanism. You know the issue that seasons 4 and 5 had where they would have story-focused episodes at random intervals when most of it would be just pointless filler? Well, that's Steven Universe Super in a nutshell, except about 10 times worse. And not even the story episodes can save this season. Oh, and episodes that apparently try to develop the characters aren't safe from being filler by nature. Not only because their character does not change in later episodes, but also because what happens in the episode itself is beyond stupid. I'm gonna get back onto the writing in a second. I'd like to quickly touch upon the animation for this season. While it is a lot more consistent than previous seasons, the issue still remains with the animation at times being really wonky despite how simple the characters look. And I don't care if you say this is because they want all storyboard artists to have creative freedom so that episodes are easier to draw, because if you're going to hinder the quality of your own show simply because someone who has most likely got a degree or something in art or animation in order to be hired for this job can't draw something that isn't even hard to draw, then people are going to get super distracted when Steven looks super thin in one episode and then fucking obese in the next one. Rebecca, stick to your fucking model sheets, please. Oh, and also, the action scenes fucking suck. Please stop trying to make them look exciting when they're stiffer than my granddad's back. There are multiple moments where characters just stay still and let themselves get hit by something, and in the case of Steven versus Jasper, this is all you need to see. How did they think this was acceptable to be shown on television? Holy shit. Now I'd like for us to go on to something that I love to get mad about, and that's character inconsistency. Oh my sweet baby Lord Jeebus, this season has the consistency of Game of Thrones episode ratings after season 7. Apparently they wanted Steven to be more of an angsty teen who is now devoted to fixing his mother's mistakes because apparently the show is still using Rose for drama. This will be brought up later. And we get a lot more moments in this season where Steven loses his patience and shit entirely and starts yelling at people. And if I didn't already hate post season 4 Steven for being a dumbass, he is now a twat. And here we go. Why don't you try developing Steven like a normal person, you risible bellends? So because character writing is difficult, Rebecca has opted to completely remove any likability from Steven's character as he continues to shout and audibly say that he hates the people around him and we're supposed to like him because he doesn't mean what he says. Yeah, sure. Because hearing stuff like that come from Steven Universe, you know, this guy, is so fun to listen to as someone who used to like this character. At times I actually get depressed with how terrible Steven is in this season, especially at one point where he literally shouts at someone who had suffered from abuse simply because they were abused by Rose, and Steven gets angry simply because he doesn't want to hear her talk about how she was abused.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't even want to think about it. Just want to fix it.
What a great, inspiring line of dialogue you just spat out, Steven, you radioactive hemorrhoid. If I was none the wiser, I would have assumed you were ripped straight out of an episode of Rick and Morty, but no, this is just how much of a dick Steven is now. Steven's arc in this season, if you can even call it that, is learning how to adapt to changes around him, and oh boy, I wonder where I've heard that before. The Crewniverse is now so drained for ideas that they are literally reusing a character arc that Steven already had in the movie, and somehow did it worse. The fact that one of the kindest, most compassionate characters arguably in all of animation could be hit down by simple teenage angst is kind of insulting, honestly. Like, Steven has dealt with far fucking worse than Jasper getting sassy with him, and then he just completely loses it with her and then brags that she only became corrupted because she refused to win a fight with Steven that she actually lost, causing Steven to literally say this.
All the other gems were corrupted by the diamonds, but you corrupted yourself just to win a fight, which you lost to me!
Okay, so I think I may just have to go easy on Steven now as precaution for my own safety, as it seems that if his ego collapses, it's liable to form a fucking black hole. In the Snow Day episode, we see that Steven is more of a respectable adult now, and is able to manage himself a lot better, and then by the end learns to loosen up a little and to have fun. 2 episodes later, and we get him closing in everyone inside a bubble because he doesn't want them to leave and can't cope with change despite, you know, fucking this.
That I can make it.
That clip will never not bring me joy. And to add on to more of Steven's whole riddled brain fucks, one of his first lines to Amethyst in the first episode is worrying about Spinel, and that someone who is still hurt by the diamonds is currently living with them. Hey, it's almost like Steven recognizes that it was a bad idea to let Spinel live with the diamonds. I bet he realizes that whoever made that decision is a bit of a dumbass, aren't they? Oh, yeah. Well, Steven also gets some new powers in this season. There isn't really a name for it as of now, so I will refer to it as the Pink Gay. Remember the finale for season 5, that amazing ending that everyone loved where Steven turned pink? Yeah, remember that? Okay, cool. When Steven is fighting Jasper in episode 1, Jasper begins to get Steven uncharacteristically angry. And can I just say how Steven agreeing to fight Jasper completely goes against him being a fucking pacifist? Look at him fighting Spinel the entire time he is on the bloody defensive and literally creates bubble boxing gloves just to counter Spinel, not to actually harm her. Yet here he is quite literally trying to beat the shit out of Jasper. Anyway, Steven gets mad and then he activates the Pink Gay out of nowhere and is surprised and had no idea this was a thing. And as we learn in episode 4, Pink also had these powers and used them whilst having tantrums, and that Pearl, Garnet, and Amethyst had no clue she had destructive capabilities. So like, did she not use them at all during the Gem War? Is that seriously what they're implying? Fuck off. So yeah, we learned that Steven has literally no control over these powers and seems to only activate them when he's angry, but not when he's always angry, because that would be consistent. So instead, he somehow learns how to use and activate his powers in episode 5 to kick the shit out of Bluebird, and I'm sat here going, the fuck? When the hell did he learn how to activate the Pink Gay on command? And then afterwards it's used accidentally once again. We do learn that these powers are directly tied to Steven's emotions, at least when the plot wants it to, but is there a reason for these only being a thing now? Does it have to activate when Steven's a teenager? Are you trying to tell me that a build-up of testosterone is somehow controlling a gem ability? And can I just touch on this for 1 second? Steven is now completely devoted to fixing everything that his mother did, while simultaneously acting like her. Even if this was the point, shouldn't Steven fucking Universe have a little bit more self-control? Surely the powers aren't affecting his emotions, right? They're the ones being controlled by the emotions. Are they interchangeable? Not like that would be fucking silly. So if he's the one who gets the powers simply because of his emotions, shouldn't he be recognizing that yelling at a person who was trying to detail how she was physically abused by someone is kind of a dick move? You throbbing turbo cunt. I'm pretty sure the guy responsible for toppling an entire empire through sheer kindness isn't going to let a hormone completely destroy his entire character. The Pink Gay being used as a plot device is probably the only thing they could have possibly done to try and generate emotions now, because oh no, my favorite character is acting like a twat to everyone else and he'll die a virgin. But that still doesn't excuse such a dick-headed understanding of consistency. Oh, and in the episode titled Volleyball, it's shown that you can turn pink simply because Rose is mentioned. Is this him being angry inside? Is this simply him being anxious? Does the pink gay cover a range of emotions and not just one? A lot here that we would appreciate being explained, especially if you're going to be experimental with the heart and soul of this fucking show. Oh, and in the episode titled Prickly Pear, the show's writers demonstrate just how much they want to fuck up Steven this season.
Can't tell Pearl how I feel, cause she'll blame herself and spiral out of control. And I don't want any more high and mighty advice from Garnet. And I'm so sick of Amethyst acting like she's so mature now.
You unholy troglodyte of Satan, how is this Steven fucking universe? Oh, and judging by the leaked audio we've gotten recently with Steven flipping out at people again, it seems like that ending was just there for show, as Steven is getting more aggressive with people now, and hearing Steven say all of this shit about the gems is on one hand heartbreaking given everything they've gone through, and on another hand annoying because it shows just how far they want to go in terms of wrecking this character's previous progressions and believable moments. Steven goddamn motherfucking universe should not be getting hit this hard by teen angst. It's completely out of character, and it's also just not fun to watch at all. This is the same character who recognized that he needs to better himself with changes that happen around him in the movie. And while realistically it may take more than that, it's still not good for a television show. Repeating character arcs does not make for good drama or character development, especially if you somehow do it worse than before. Oh, and Steven being completely brain dead is also something that applies to all of the crystal gems this season, so I will leave that for a separate section of the video. But now, let's talk about the other characters. For the most part, a lot of the characters were left untouched, and some developments I actually liked. Lars leaving for space with the off-colors again because he's found his true calling is a very welcome choice, and him and Sadie breaking up and moving on peacefully was also very well done and made sense for their characters. Aside from Steven being a selfish asshole throughout the episode by trying to sabotage Sadie and Shep's relationship, yes, go and do that, Steven, you shitmeister. But other than Lars and Sadie, nothing much happened with any of the other characters, which first off, thank God, and secondly, what? So far in this series, as of writing this video, Connie hasn't made a single appearance yet, and was shoehorned out of the story in the first episode thanks to copyright infringement. Greg completed his arc like 3 seasons ago, and has done literally nothing but act as a segue for lame jokes ever since. Lapis gets to actually show how she's quote-unquote grown, if you can even consider her arc from season 5 a character arc, that is, and her episode is one of the least awful episodes, but not exactly good, with some really dull action, and Peridot is just there. No, my main issue with this season's treatment of characters comes in the form of the crystal fucking gems, because my god, never before have these 3 been so utterly useless, inconsistent, and annoying than in this season. Let's take it from the top. Garnet is as useless as she always is. Ever since season 2A, Garnet has stopped being a character and now acts as a mouthpiece for exposition on fusion and mostly bad jokes, with some of them only being funny because Estelle actually delivers them in an entertaining deadpan way like you would expect out of a Wes Anderson movie. And while she doesn't give much exposition on fusion in this season, she might as well have been cut from the show entirely because now she just stands around and has like 5 sentences in a single episode. Garnet used to be a lot more entertaining and intriguing as a character in seasons 1 and 2. Her future vision was an interesting concept, she had a half-decent personality, bonded well with Steven at times, and had moments of actual emotion that worked. And when she was revealed to be a fusion, it made her character even better when going into season 2, with numerous moments in that season of her struggling with what's happening around her. And hell, this scene is legitimately hard to watch when thinking about her perspective. But in season 3, we didn't get any more from her, and in season 4, she just stopped being a character altogether, with season 5's ending only bringing her back into the spotlight due to that dumb fucking twist. Seriously, fuck this episode. In Steven Universe Absalon, she's just stopped functioning completely. She used to be one of my favorite characters, and now she just isn't one. Amethyst doesn't suffer from the same problems Garnet has, rather she suffers from being remarkably inconsistent. While she is still overall a good character, whose arc was one of the show's best, and has retained her personality and had some funny lines from time to time, she just doesn't have a lot to do in this season other than bonding with Steven like she usually does. And that's fine and all, watching these two interact is usually pretty charming, but any other time she's in this season she is either reverting back to how unhinged and annoying she was in season 1, or getting way too upset upset over something and making it out like she hasn't changed how she deals with things. The second I saw Amethyst get upset in this episode, I started wheezing so fucking hard, you have no idea. The fact that this was supposed to be the emotional conflict of the episode was laughable. What the fuck even was this? How are you this upset over Steven changing people's jobs? Sure, it was rude, but like, calm the fuck down, woman, rock. And in Snow Day, she is insufferable. In fact, all the crystal gems in that episode are beyond aggravating. There's wanting to go back to how things were when Steven was a kid, and then there's flat out annoying the shit out of him because you can't seem to register that he doesn't want to play games with you, you fucking ham. Oh, and a core thing that all of the gems share in this season, as well as every other season in this show, is that they are beyond incompetent. And I thought I'd mention this now because this is something that I haven't really brought up much before, but the gems are quite possibly the 3 most utterly retarded characters I have ever seen. But I'm getting off track. Now on to Pearl. Pearl!
How did you stop hurting? I didn't.
Fuck you! Do the writers even remember a single one of Pearl's character arcs, or are they just doing the same one over and over and over again? Like, for fuck's sake, why are you still holding on to Pearl being sad that Rose left, and then have her learn to move on and to focus on other things, only to then slap in another moment where Pearl goes through the exact same cycle? God, Last One Out of Beach City was so bad. Hey, you guys remember this line from the movie?
And after love and loss and all the tears that I cried, I find that here we are in the future.
Yeah, that. They just completely looked over that to give us this scene. Pearl, pick how you want to feel and stick with it, you fucking toaster. This one stupid writing choice has made Pearl the second most inconsistent character on the show, and hell, it makes me question if there's even a fucking crack in her gem. Just like all of the other characters, she's as dumb as a bag of sand, with the writers taking numerous notches out of everyone's intelligence for the sake of a bad joke. And then there's just moments that make me contemplate why I even bother with this show. In the episode Snow Day, Amethyst begins to harass Steven and chase him around in the game of Steven Tag, where whoever gets tagged has to shapeshift into young Steven. Not only are all of the gems in this episode uncharacteristically excitable and playful, as they relentlessly go after Steven without taking a hint that he might just be a bit annoyed by this, but something happens in this episode and I want you to take this in. Pearl gets tagged and Steven promptly says that Pearl doesn't like shapeshifting, and that she wouldn't shapeshift, and then all of a sudden she fucking shapeshifts. Can I tell you how dumb this fucking scene is? May I express to you how completely insane this is? Pearl has always had a disdain for shapeshifting, linking into how she had to shapeshift to fake Pink Diamond's death, tying in with her broken heart because of Rose leaving her, and how Rose told her not to tell anyone about what happened. And if this show was remotely consistent whatsoever and stuck to how Pearl felt about Rose in the movie, then this moment wouldn't seem so bad. But because this clustertism of fuck-uppery we call Steven Universe Brotherhood just had an episode where we learned that Pearl is still hurting over Rose leaving her, this scene makes absolutely no sense, and Pearl is now a twat. If you are still emotional over this, then why are you shapeshifting, you slimy lemon fuck? Not only did a single pale Rose demolish your entire character of not belonging to anyone as you belong to a diamond, for fuck's sake, but it also seems to have ruined any chance of your character being consistent ever again. And this was for what? A half-assed title card joke in a filler episode? Are you kidding me? Could you fucking not show? So after looking at all of the characters, I think we can come to the conclusion that they're all merely tools at this point, except for Steven, with them all being handled so cack-handedly. It really isn't fun to watch characters go completely against what's already been set up for them, and when they've been reduced to being annoying dipshits. I mean, if your show ever gets to that point, then that's when we're gonna have a bit of a problem on our hands. Anyway, now that we've tackled the characters, let's get back on to the show's writing. Oh my god. I cannot remember a show that I've seen where I was laughing at the writing in every episode. This is not an exaggeration, I was dying. Everything from the lines the characters have, the delivery of said lines, the stories themselves, and numerous moments that made me audibly shout, what the fuck? I shit you not, something utterly ridiculous happened every few minutes that was so out of left field or out of place that it sent me through cringe, depression, and unbridled laughter, all within the space of a millisecond, resulting in me laughing so uncontrollably to the point where I was was giddy about 5 minutes after watching an episode. Okay, let's break down some utterly stupid moments in this season. Episode 1 is what I'd like to refer to as the least terrible episode of the season, but that doesn't mean it was good. The half-assed attempt at being funny at the beginning of the episode comes at the expense of making another moment where Steven is completely retarded. I know I mentioned this at the start of the video, but firstly, Steven monologuing and talking about people this random gem doesn't even know, fucking hell, my brain, with no clue what her reaction would be, was just fucking silly. It really felt like the writing team just turned him into a narrator before realizing that he's a character. Well, at least he used to be. Secondly, Jasper is still a miserable shit, despite hinting at her being the opposite in the finale for season 5. That interesting road to redemption is just gone now, you robotic muppet fucks. Thirdly, Steven has a lot more patience than this, and completely fucking his character for the excuse of teen angst does not work when you're trying to write a TV show. Fourthly, Steven agreeing to fight Jasper was also fucking silly. Steven has always been a pacifist, only engaging in fights in self-defense or when it's the only option available. Him getting mad over an argument with Jasper, who we can clearly see is not budging, is an utter fuck up. Fifthly, the pink gay is just a thing now and Rose just always had this. And seeing as how this thing can just choose when to randomly activate due to anger, it would make sense if Rose never used this, but apparently it can also activate when you're stressed or sad for some reason, which adds a whole lot of other questions. And by the middle of the season, or at least the episodes that are available as of writing this, Steven is just able to use this on command, is completely aware of its capabilities, and then in later episodes, he has no idea how to control it anymore. Did Rose ever learn how to control the pink gay? In fact, why is this power locked behind an emotional barrier at points? I get this is also a thing for Blue Diamond, who makes others feel sad around her, but she's able to actually control this. So it just begs the question of how the fuck does this make a lick of sense? Why was Pink so limited with everything, even to the point where an essential and incredibly powerful diamond ability is locked behind an emotional barrier? What expired omelette wrote this? Oh, and those were only issues with the first episode, by the way, and that was the least bad one out of them all. We're in for a fucking treat today. Episode 2, the whole thing is filler in a limited time series, so that's already a massive issue right off the bat. And every other issue of this episode just adds onto that pile. Amethyst being an emotional turnip over something so minuscule was ridiculous to watch, and I died laughing when they showed that this was going to be the emotional conflict of the episode. This is called story writing. Anyone can do it nowadays. Steven thinking that giving gems who are clearly unsuited for certain jobs to jobs that they are not suited for was a good idea is another case of Steven being completely retarded. Steven not giving a shit about Amethyst's feelings when she runs off and gets visibly upset just shows how inconsistent he is now. He used to be mindful of how everyone was feeling, and now he just doesn't care. This isn't even angst, by the way. He was genuinely enjoying all of this, you fucking tool. How did you think that this was possibly a good idea, Steven? Where is your lobotomy scar? I'd really like to see it. And on top of that, the emotional conflict gets solved rather quickly, and it's just jarring. Then Smokey Quartz comes back because Steven Universe, and we're introduced to a new power that is for some reason with the pink gay, and okay? I'm probably gonna have to do a double take on this. The pink gay suddenly slows everything down, and Smokey is suddenly super fast. Why did you do that? Why does this thing have even more than super strength now? Why is this ability locked behind an emotional paywall? What the hap is fucking-ing? I don't need to explain why this is dumb. I'm just going to give you this line of dialogue from Smokey that is so badly written and delivered it is about on par of modern Star Wars standards.
Oh, cool.
Knights of Ren. Cool.
Oh, and they also have this really funny joke at the end where they find out that Onion was someone who they forgot to save out on the roller coaster, which is super funny because Onion looks completely fine and Steven freaks out for a second, and then the episode ends. Wait, what? Where the fuck was Onion on this roller coaster exactly? No wonder you missed him. He was just invisible, apparently. In fact, how could you have missed him even if he was there? And furthermore, the roller coaster fucking exploded. But no, don't worry. It was just a small joke. It doesn't matter. It was so funny. Ha 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 ha. Well, I think taking a notch out of a character's intelligence and also not paying attention to your own animation and continuity can be criticized if all you aim to do is make a joke. But alright then, and now I'm only going to go through episodes that actually deserve to be discussed, because if I'm being honest, most of them share a lot of the same issues or are just straight up average. So just a quick rundown of the episodes I won't talk about. Episode 6 is one of the worst episodes of the entire show, as it feels ridiculously unfocused and at the end was all filler anyway. It's a writing train wreck apart from one or two funny lines from from Garnet, and it felt like my brain was in a deep fryer the entire time it was on. Episode 7 is an unfunny, inconsistent mess, and its biggest issue is the characterization of the crystal gems. And episode 8 is straight up average, with fight scenes that make Lapis look like a complete dolt, that also goes so slowly and makes for an incredibly unexciting endeavor. Not to mention having a song that would have been a lot better if the instrumental wasn't elevator music. Oh, you think I'm joking? Take a listen.
And fusion was the same.
Now, with those out of the way, let's get back onto the episodes that deserve to be mentioned. Episode 3. Oh god. Oh god. Okay, let me just put it straight here. This has to be one of the most unintentionally hilarious episodes of a TV show I have ever watched. Nothing can compare to this. It is an utter clusterfuck of awful writing choices and moments that had me gasping for breath. Right, so like all of a sudden the Zumans arrive. Remember them? Yeah, okay, cool. And before your brain can recover from this incredibly out of left field event that has happened, Stephen and Amethyst go on board the ship to meet the Famethist. Yes, they are still using that name unironically, and each time they say it, I get an inch closer to death. Holly Blue is also still there, and she's on screen for about 15 seconds, making me ask what the point was other than getting a reaction similar to, oh, I remember her. Amethyst knocks the Amethyst over like bowling balls, adding to this show's sense of humor being toxic waste. And then Stephen is escorted to the people who wanted the Zumans to come to Earth, who wanted to meet him. And what follows is possibly the single greatest piece of comedy that has ever been written.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready? Ready!
What the fuck? What the fuck? I actually can't. No, I fucking can't. Who on God's green earth wrote this? Who on God's green earth wrote this animated brain tumor? Holy shit. I nearly pissed myself when I first saw this. I was crying. I shouted, "What the fuck?" so loud that I heard my neighbors say something about me. Holy crap. Oh. What the fuck? Alright then, let's just get into what just fucking happened. Okay, Stephen having to deal with more stuff with Rose right before meeting an identical copy of her is just the purest of garbage. The fact that these three seem to be the only ones who care about Stephen, despite the fact that all of them were just unbubbled because of him, is also complete garbage. The fact that they've taken so long to decide that they should visit Earth and meet Stephen is complete and utter garbage. The fact that this show is still trying to use Rose to generate reactions and drama out of characters in the audience is fucking garbage. Holly Blue still being loyal to the diamonds but not having it go anywhere and using her for a joke is complete fucking garbage. And having two of these three smother Stephen with attention as well as the other characters in this episode just to make them feel uncomfortable for the sake of reminding us that Rose had an effect on all of them is complete, utter fucking garbage. They both try to be dramatic and funny with this at times just for the sake of making the characters uncomfortable. The drama fails miserably and the comedy is funny but not in the way they intended it to be. It's funny in the sense that they do something so ridiculous with this stupid plot every 30 seconds. This happens numerous times throughout the entire episode, by the way. I wheezed so hard throughout this turd pile.
There comes a time in all forms of media
Nah, fuck that. Oh, and they tried to make a joke about Greg being emotionally scarred. It didn't work. In fact, it kind of aggravated me. And this is basically the whole episode. Something stupid happens all the time. We get more instances of Stephen being completely retarded.
Slumber party!
Say no! Just, whoa, what the fuck? That's all that can be said for this episode. I don't want to talk about it for too long, especially for the next episode we're looking at. But I just like to point out this one scene where Stephen goes to play a film for the Quartzes. He accidentally plays the fucking tape from Rose and then freaks out over it, and I was fucking sent. My throat hurt after watching this. It was that funny. Why would you have the tape anywhere near that TV? Why would you have it anywhere near that TV if you plan on moving on from Rose? And was it literally not labeled, or were you just not paying attention? Because if I were you, I'd probably place labels telling me what tape plays what to avoid getting PTSD when you end up playing the wrong tape containing the last message from your bitch of a mother in front of people who look just like her and you're also feeling uncomfortable around, you fucking weapon. Please move on to the next episode, please. Just quick, I just... Right, so episode 4 is overall an average episode, but it has a few moments and one episode specifically that makes no sense at all. So let's have a rundown. First of all, unlike the last episode, this episode tries to legitimately shoehorn Rose into the fucking story again, by this time having Steven activate the pink gay when her name is mentioned or referenced, adding more inconsistencies to how these powers work. Awesome. Secondly, Pearl is confused as to what Steven is asking her when it is so blatantly obvious what he is asking her. I have no idea what the point of this was. I think Dee Dee just went off script and then Zach improvised the next bit, not entirely sure. Thirdly, for some reason physical damage cannot be repaired on a Pearl because the physical damage is psychological. This was actually written by someone. Fourthly, okay, I need to go over this. Pearl gets angry that White Diamond could be so careless when it came to Volleyball being damaged, and then Volleyball reveals that it was actually Pink Diamond that damaged her, as she had a terrible tantrum one day of her destructive powers and hurt her. What the fuck? Who is the squirming stain of vaginal discharge at Cartoon Network who keeps letting this happen? Who is the pickled fuck of an executive over at CN who allows the Crewniverse to keep teabagging Rose's corpse for forced drama? Pick an option for how you want to deal with Rose and stick with it, you crusty baguette. And while this is being explained, Steven suddenly snaps and starts yelling at Volleyball for explaining how she was physically abused by someone, adding on to the fact that Steven is a gormless tit in this season, while also proclaiming how he wants to fix everything Pink did, before then doing exactly what she would have done. Fifthly, if the pink gay was known to Volleyball and that Pink regularly used it, then was she controlling it, or did it just always happen when she was angry? Sixthly, this scene.
How did you stop hurting? I didn't.
You see, it's a good scene because Pearl is showing affection of how she was also treated by Rose, and yeah, it's a very emotional scene. Please be emotional. I'm very proud of this scene. Oh, just fuck off! That one line makes Pearl so remarkably inconsistent. And I know I've already talked about this line, but it can honestly go fuck itself. Seventhly, a bunch of random moments of exposition that are unneeded. And eighthly, Pearl and Volleyball fusing to understand each other and learn to heal because Steven Universe with a ribbon wand that doesn't make any logical sense as to how laid out fabric can act as a steel sword. But fuck it, Rebecca with her anime references again. Awesome. Ending with an admittedly decent scene of both Pearls learning to cope with their grief and emotional trauma together. Still a shame that you glossed over how Pearl has been moving on for a while now, and then the episode ends. Right, so not a terrible episode mind you, but god did a lot of it not make any narrative sense. Next episode. Episode 5 is fucking awful. The premise is that Aqua and Eyeball, remember them right? Yeah, good, have arrived on Earth to get their revenge on Steven, but instead of that being potentially interesting, we instead get an entire episode where they have fused and are posing as a new gem with everyone buying that for some reason, yet when Steven sees him he automatically realizes that it's Aqua and Eyeball. So once again we have a lot of issues. Why is this such a momentous occasion that an entire party needs to be arranged for when a new gem arrives? From my knowledge, no other gem gets that treatment when they're unbubbled, so does it really matter when a gem arrives from space? And if so, why is there a revelation to people? Are people forgetting that nearly all of Gemkind is now loyal to Steven and respects him for dismantling the Empire? And while yes, it's still plausible that there are many gems that don't like Steven for what he did. I even mentioned this in my Steven Universe movie video when Steven was being a moron for doxing himself to the entire universe. People should probably not be this enthusiastic. We didn't have Steven bringing the gems into the bathroom to discuss how this is clearly Aqua and Eyeball, but instead the gems say that they know about this and that Steven wanting them gone is kind of hypocritical, seeing as how he's been redeeming problematic people his entire life. While it's finally good to see Steven get called out for something, the gems literally not giving a shit about Bluebird and just using the fact that she's fused as a scapegoat to assume she's good now is so out of character for all of them. Maybe not Garnet, but Pearl and Amethyst should be a lot more skeptical and aware of this. And aren't they just a little bit suspicious with the fact that all Bluebird is doing right now is pranking Steven? Don't they think that's a little odd? In fact, more questions on Fusion are brought up again because you fucking love to see it. We can clearly tell that this is Bluebird being a twat to Steven because Aqua and Eyeball don't like him. So the fact that Fusion is supposed to be an entirely new being is completely thrown out the window just like it always is when they bring in a fusion, making Garnet's statement about Bluebird being a new gem utterly stupid. I'm not even going to get into that can of worms. I already touched on that last time I reviewed this spasticated TV show. Oh, and we also get Amethyst laughing at Steven as he gets annoyed that Bluebird spilled soda on him, which just makes me even more curious as to how they don't see that her constantly being a dick to Steven is antagonizing. The rest of the episode then devolves into fake outs of Bluebird doing something and then having it be a misunderstanding to try and lower the audience's suspicions of her when it does nothing. And if this was supposed to be obviously building up to the eventual reveal that they're bad, then that fails as well because it completely takes away all investment. Oh yeah, and they try and do this bit where they threaten to kill Greg and then Greg just cuts his own hair off to fall back down. Imagine how he would have felt if they just picked him back up after that. But yeah, this apparently makes Steven angry and he learns how to actually manage and control the pink gay, adding more questions, but fuck it. The gems then get their intelligence back and realize Bluebird is bad and crush her, leading to Aqua and Eyeball leaving Earth before them baiting Steven into making himself look completely retarded by badly apologizing. Why did you even attempt that, Steven? Fuck off. So apart from the one ending line from Greg, what a disaster of an episode. Oh, and the gems are so poorly characterized in this episode, it actually hurts. Especially this one part where Amethyst starts crying when Steven thinks her drawings are bluebirds. That was just the worst thing. Now for the last two episodes I want to talk about, I'm pairing them both together as they're both just as bad and they're also part of the same story arc. Episode 9 is an episode where Steven completely scraps his arc in the movie if you had at least some hope they hadn't forgotten it by not accepting any change happening around him whatsoever. What the fuck was the point in that ending song anymore? Just what the fuck? There are some things I do like in these episodes, like Lars and Sadie breaking up in a believable and surprising way without any sort of over-dramatic tension, with Sadie also moving on for a new partner Shep and Lars going back to space with the off-colors as he's found his true calling. But that's basically it. The episode feels like it just wants to fuck with Steven just a tiny bit more as he begins trying to prevent everything from changing and even trying to nudge Lars and Sadie back together, which just felt so out of character, even from some of Steven's worst cases. You cannot tell me this is coming from Steven fucking Universe, you rancid bowl of oatmeal. We get a song from Sadie that would be pretty good if it wasn't for the abundance of distracting autotune. Autotune in Steven Universe. What the fuck? I can't. Okay, look, autotune is a great tool for correcting things that went off when singing, but when it's used for every single line in a song, it gets a tad bit annoying. And then the episode ends with Steven bottling up every emotion he's feeling and having the pink gay introduce another power, a closing shield that will crush whoever is inside. What? How is that supposed to be useful? And fucking hell, please stop complicating this stupid ability. Steven is comforted by everyone, specifically Shep, and he lowers his shield and allows everyone to go. The next day, he retires from Little Homeschool and drives off into the woods to rest, which is a thing that happens while Sadie's song about looking forward plays, hopefully bringing about a change in Steven's attitude as he learns to look forward and accept change with good grace. The next episode then has Steven refusing to have a change in his attitude as he doesn't look forward or accept change with good grace. For the love of Satan, why must you demolish this character show? Can you fucking not? For like 1 second. Episode 10 is the episode that truly ruined Steven for me. It's all about him not learning a damn thing from the previous episode and the movie, and I get that realistically people may take more time to learn, but this is a TV show. Repeating arcs on a TV show doesn't make for good or believable television. It in fact gives the impression that you are a hack writer. You could make the argument that he's still going through his arc. I would like to say fuck that. If he is still going through his arc, then this should have been built up a hell of a lot more before randomly shoehorning in the revelation that he needs to realize in the episode before this one, because it appears he didn't learn a damn thing from it. This script is a jumbled mess of yogurt and bin juice. Steven accidentally gets his magic spit on the tip of a cactus prick, which is somehow enough for it to come to life, which is ridiculous, but whatever. Steven then brings the cactus to the gems, where Amethyst has this random close-up that was meant for a joke. I just fucking winced. Pearl also has this line.
He's a survivor, just like you.
That's all I'm gonna say. That was delivered horrendously. Steven then begins to dump all of his feelings onto Cactus Steven, and then the next day the cactus starts parroting what he's saying, which, what? Why does Pumpkin not parrot people? She's a plant-based life form as well, so don't quite understand why Cactus Steven does this, so that's an annoying hole. In fact, where is Pumpkin exactly? Is she okay? Oh wait, hold on. How long does a pumpkin live for? Oh, hell no! So Steven shows that Cactus Steven can talk to the gems until it begins to parrot what Steven was dumping on it earlier to the gems' concern. Steven runs upstairs and shouts at Cactus Steven for venting his own feelings in front of the gems, which then leads to this unholy scene of raw, unprocessed diarrhea. Oh, just fuck off, you washed up, pale imitation of Steven Universe. Hearing Steven say all of this about the gems just because of his teen angst, just because he's been made incredibly erratic and inconsistent, just because he can't focus on getting better after being taught the same lesson 2 fucking times, just because he's all of a sudden impatient and looks over how everyone else is feeling to prioritize his happily ever after, that he wants, despite the movie clearly stating how he shouldn't do that, just because you had to try and think of something for him to do in this season and all, is heartbreaking. It feels like a complete character turnaround, not too dissimilar to how Star decided to kill all all of the magic and forces of evil season 4, to prioritize saving a small group of people on one planet as opposed to keeping the millions of creatures made of magic alive in the universe. God, I still hate that fucking season. Steven has been made so unlikable in this season for the piss poor excuse of having teen angst that is now crossed into him venting about how he's annoyed with the gems for doing fucking nothing. Again, this is realistic for most teenagers, but does not work when given the context of Steven's character, his past actions, how he's dealt with things previously, etc, etc. And then the episode has Cactus Steven turn into a big monster, because Steven Universe, and it begins to beat the shit out of the crystal gems because of fucking course it does. They're useless now. And the multiple points here where the gems get themselves pricked for being dumbasses should honestly be a drinking game. Oh, and he parrots everything Steven said about the gems to the gems, and for some reason they get so distracted that it beats the shit out of them because that's fun to watch. Also, there is some terribly written and delivered dialogue during this fight.
The cactus is Earth's most resilient plant.
Steven then simply apologizes to the abomination and gives it a hug, leading to it leaving the house feeling perfectly content. Steven looks off sadly while the gems ask him if there's anything he needs to talk about, with possible hints at him getting better in the next episode. Except with the recent leaked audio we've gotten, he's going to get even worse and possibly even corrupted. And by then, I bet they would have another session where he calms down only to flip out once again at some point, because that's the corner they've written themselves into. I cannot tell when they will actually cap this arc, or if they even plan on capping it next time, because they have taken their sweet time with producing fake outs. And this is why these two episodes fail for me. They demolish any likability Steven had and are generally bad episodes. And those are the 10 episodes for Steven Universe GT that are currently out right now, and boy, what a hot mess it was. While I can definitely say that these episodes are enjoyable some of the time for both ironic and unironic reasons, the writing quality for this show has dipped to such a low point that it's genuinely shocking. Like I said at the start of the video, you are able to like this, and I can see why people would like this. It's a much different perspective on Steven Universe and goes for the effects of post-traumatic stress. My problem? It doesn't do it that well. While it's certainly shocking and emotional for people to deal with Steven acting the way he does, I found it to be wildly out of character for him, and many of the writing choices in these episodes are just so much filler episodes that have no bearing on anything, still using Rose for drama, a ton of inconsistencies in characters, flat out stupid decisions made by said characters, the songs being relatively meh, the emotional moments not being nearly as well as built up or impactful as they once were, as they now feel shoehorned in at the last second, and some of these emotional conflicts are dumb. The animation is slipping once again, the voice acting is decent for the most part, but the delivery still gets balked in every episode at some point, and so many interesting and potentially great ideas are squandered in favour of a bare bones and rushed attempt to tie up the many loose ends that the abysmal finale left unanswered. The short runtime of each episode is more of a detriment to the show than it actually realises. We are at a point where so many ideas are presented and executed poorly in a single episode simply because they don't have enough time to flesh it out. 11 minutes is hardly enough time to explain anything, and because of that they have to shoehorn in expository audible turds I have to refer to as dialogue to tell the viewer what is happening, and it can get very boring sometimes. So boring in fact that the first episode nearly put me to sleep until Steven started shouting out of nowhere, and the terrible delivery kicked in to remind me that if the dialogue would be interesting it would have to be hilariously awful, which it is most of the time, and when they try to be genuinely funny it always comes off as cringeworthy or just straight up unimpactful. If someone threw a roll of toilet paper at me, it would have the same effect on my state of mind as the humour did in this season. What used to be casually delivered and charming is now mind-numbingly simple and sometimes not even set up as a proper joke, and sometimes even relying on taking notches out of the intelligence of characters just to make a joke happen. There were so many ridiculous moments in these 10 episodes that I almost had a heart attack from how funny I found them. Episode 3 is considered a good episode by some people, but I just could not with this fucking episode. If the show ever uses Rose at any point again, I will probably set fire to a pile of books, because who needs to write cohesive stories when you can reuse the same plot points over and 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 over again, over and over and over and over again, until the point where you're literally holding the viewer at gunpoint. Steven is just demolished in this season. One second he's normal and happy, next second he's beating the shit out of someone. One second he's helpful and understanding, and the next second he's screaming at someone for talking about how his mother abused them. One second he fuck it, you know how it goes. Rest in peace, Steven, you lasted about 5 seasons until the movie turned you into more of an unintelligent mole rat than you ever were before. And this season made you a straight up cunt. Fucking wonderful. And the less that's said about the crystal gems, the better. The tones clash so hard in this season that I find it genuinely confusing as to how you can be so inept with what tone you want your show to go with. It just reminds me of how much of a tonally borked film that Venom was. In fact, that's basically it. This season is the Venom of Steven Universe. A season that's enjoyable if you just go along with what's happening or are a long-time fan through even the worst parts of the show, surprisingly. But once you actually begin to think about it, Here I was going to mention some things I liked about this season, but honestly, I can't really think of much. The most I can say is the voice acting being decent for the most part, the animation being mostly acceptable, and the music being tolerable. Oh, and they haven't ruined Peridot yet, so that's a plus. Honestly, I hate to say it, but I don't think Steven Universe will get any better than it did in its third season. Seriously, I hate saying this about a show that used to be one of my favourite cartoons of all time. It's honestly just depressing. I will continue to watch Steven Universe Future as it goes on and when it returns, and if something changes by the end, I may make a new video. But for now, this is probably going to be my last video on Steven Universe for a while. I really tried to like this season, but the number of writing issues was too much for me, and I just had to get these thoughts out as quickly as I could. Steven Universe Future is a writing failure. The future isn't looking bright, and I can't believe we came this far. Steven Universe Future, here we fucking are.
It's the true, it's the true, it's the true kind of love. It's the true, it's the true, it's the true kind of love.